Hi everyone and welcome to this edition of Eagle News. I am EJayGonzales in Washington. It's the first Saturday of the month, March 2nd, 2023, here in the nation's capital. The week's recap begins with a historic wildfire catastrophically ripping across the Texas Panhandle. It has taken lives and is destroying homes, cattle, and ranches. The fire is now the largest ever recorded in the state. Mifanwe Zaragoza reports.
A cluster of rapid-moving wildfires engulfed the Texas Panhandle Wednesday, spreading through multiple small towns and cattle ranches. One of the largest fires, known as the Smokehouse Creek Fire, less than an hour's drive north of Amarillo, merged with another wildfire, scorching over 1.1 million acres, roughly 1,700 square miles, and only 3% of it contained as of Thursday. The blaze, which began Monday, is now the largest wildfire in Texas history. Evacuations were ordered and Texas Governor Greg Abbott issued a disaster declaration Tuesday for 60 counties, urging Texas to limit activities that could create sparks and take precautions to keep their loved ones safe. Authorities have not yet given a definite cause for the multiple fires, only that the climate in the area has been unseasonably warm with dry conditions and gustly winds. A second blaze, known as the Windy Deuce Fire, in Moore County, covered an estimated 140,000 acres and is only 30% contained. Governor Abbott authorized additional state resources, which include 94 firefighting personnel, 33 fire engines, and 6 air tankers. Crew from all over Texas, which include teams from here in the Houston area, a roughly 8-hour drive, traveled to Panhandle to help extinguish the fires and provide rescue support. Texas Agricultural Commissioner Sid Miller stated that more than 85% of cattle in Texas are raised in the Panhandle. These fires not only threaten lives and property, but will also have a substantial impact on our agriculture industry. Eagle News caught up with former County Judge Barbara Canales, who expressed concern for her fellow Texans to the north.
My heart at this moment goes out to all of those Texans and those county judges affected in the northern part of Texas in the Panhandle. It's the largest wildfire in Texas state history. It's been devastating, catastrophic for agricultural lands, for cattle, for people, for businesses. And I just want you to know that this is the time to reach out, Texans. Reach out and say prayers and do anything you can to support our Texas rural communities in the Panhandle, especially those first responders and our brave folks in emergency management from our state agency, TETM. I want you to know that they will never tire, even though it is a tiring job. They are going to be there all the way through recovery. Right now we're in response, or they're in response, but they will see you through recovery. So feed them, love them, pray for them, and help them if you are called upon. Just want to say Nueces is thinking of you, and Nueces stands behind you.
Stay tuned for further updates. In Houston, Texas, I'm Mifanwe Zaragoza, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Now, the fires are devastating Texans. Online, criminals in Southeast Asia are draining victims of their life savings and retirement accounts. How do they do it, and how are they getting away with it? Bruce Belmeo has the story.
First, they build a weeks-long romantic relationship with their soon-to-be victim. Then, they drain them of their life savings and retirement accounts. Deputy District Attorney for Santa Clara County in California, Aaron West, explains how the scam works.
What this is a scam of Chinese origin, and it is called pig butchering because it is meant to consume the victim from tail to snout. That's what's horrific about this crime, is it is meant to take every last penny from its victim. It's a long con. It is a romance scam / investment scam. And it builds a relationship over time where the victim really trusts the scammer.
West warns that at the end of the scam, victims are left with nothing, down to their last penny.
They make initial investments and they see those investments skyrocket. And because they're seeing these false returns that the scammers are showing, they are talked into, led to invest more. And by the end of these scams, we see victims liquidating their 401ks, their retirement funds, their children's college accounts, and ultimately every last penny they have before the rug's pulled out from under them.
Pig butchering, West says, demands an international law enforcement response.
On the global scale, we have a massive problem with transnational organized crime that has set up infrastructure all over Southeast Asia, but particularly in Cambodia, Myanmar, and Laos. And it's a major problem that requires a worldwide response.
The California prosecutor reaches out to the victims to come out and share their story to catch who she describes as the masterful enemy.
Our enemy is masterful and has really figured out how to push us psychologically to do things that we would not ordinarily do. And there should be no shame in becoming a victim of this absolutely masterful psychological scam. Our victims are truly brainwashed, and it is very difficult to even get someone out of it once they're in the middle of it. It's a level of brainwashing we have never seen before, and it's scary.
Bruce Balmeo, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
President Joe Biden takes the wheel in addressing national security risks posed by Chinese technology integrated into cars. Eagle News New York correspondent Bobby Soriano has that story on Mind Your Business.
In a bid to address national security concerns, President Joe Biden has initiated an investigation into potential risk associated with Chinese technology integrated into cars. Biden has directed the Commerce Department to delve into vehicles equipped with tech from countries of concern, with a focus on China. The move comes amid fears that China could leverage unfair practices to dominate the global auto market, posing threats to U.S. national security. The probe targets connected vehicles, which collect vast amounts of data and could be susceptible to exploitation by foreign governments. This initiative underscores the Biden administration's recognition of the intersection between critical technology, economic growth, and national security. While the number of Chinese tech-enabled vehicles on U.S. roads is currently low, officials emphasize the need for preemptive action given China's growing automobile export market, particularly in Europe. The Alliance for American Manufacturing supports the investigation and advocates for additional measures such as higher tariffs. Concurrently, concerns have been raised over the handling of data collected during the testing of autonomous vehicles by China-related companies in the U.S. Beyond automobiles, Biden is also taking steps to restrict the flow of sensitive U.S. personal data abroad through an executive order. Bobby Soriano, New York, New York, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
In Copenhagen, Denmark, the World Health Organization, together with partners, hold a global high-level meeting addressing non-communicable diseases in humanitarian settings. Rosel Feria has the story on health as well.
Did you know that non-communicable diseases, or NCDs, are responsible for 75% of deaths worldwide? NCDs such as cardiovascular disease, cancer, chronic respiratory disease, and diabetes. WHO says people affected by humanitarian emergencies are at increased risk of NCDs. The health agency says strokes and heart attacks are up to 3 times more likely to occur following a disaster. Despite this, care and treatment for NCDs are often not included as a standard part of humanitarian emergency preparedness and response. It usually focuses on the most immediate needs. The World Health Organization, the Kingdom of Denmark, the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, the Republic of Kenya, and the UN High Commissioner for Refugees are holding talks to support integration of essential services for NCDs into emergency preparedness and humanitarian response. WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says people living with NCDs in humanitarian crisis are more likely to see their condition worsen due to trauma, stress, or the inability to access medicines or services. He says the needs are enormous, but the resources are not.
We must find ways of better planning for and addressing NCDs to improve health security. This means moving beyond infectious hazards to an all-hazardous approach to integrating NCDs into emergency planning.
NCDs accounted for a significant proportion of all deaths in the top countries of origin of refugees in the Syrian Arab Republic, Ukraine, Afghanistan, and South Sudan. UNHCR says policies and resources must be put in place to support inclusion of refugees in the national health system, including for access to care for non-communicable diseases. In Washington, D.C., Roselle Feria, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
In Johannesburg, South Africa, the United Nations releases the report of high-level panel on the teaching profession. This, as the world faces a challenge that the UN describes as a dramatic shortage of teachers. Jeff Sanidad tells us more on Learning Curve.
In a video message, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres says the world today has centered a period of dramatic challenge and change. He says yesterday's education system won't cut it and that now, more than ever, there is a need to move towards learning societies. People across the globe, Guterres says, need high-quality skills, knowledge, and education. Most importantly, the United Nations chief says people need the best teachers possible. But there is a huge problem the world is facing today, a frightening shortage of teachers.
But today, we face a dramatic shortage of teachers worldwide. And millions of teachers lack the support, skills, and continuous training they need to excel in the classroom of the future. These simple truths drove the creation of the high-level panel on the teaching profession, a key follow-up on the UN's Transforming Education Summit in 2022.
Guterres says the panel has developed key recommendations to ensure that every learner has access to a professionally trained, qualified, and well-supported teacher. But to reach this goal, he says we need to invest in teacher training, establish professional teaching standards, reflect teachers' voices in policy decisions, and create national commissions to tackle teacher shortages. Guterres says it is time to provide teachers the support, recognition, and resources they need to provide quality, relevant education and skills for all. In Washington, D.C., Jeff Sanidad, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
In other news, a team of trash fighters in Toronto warns that if people refuse to change their ways, plastic pollution will only worsen in the next decades, endangering global water systems. Chantel Santos reports on Down to Earth.
Plastic remains a major source of pollution everywhere in the world, and Toronto is certainly not an exemption. The University of Toronto trash team has collected 43 kilograms of litter and approximately 63,000 small pieces of plastic in a 6-month period last year. The said organization says that microplastics are the most common items collected via sea bins deployed along Toronto's waterfront and harbor. Almost 4,000 small plastic pieces were intercepted by these trash traps before it could reach Lake Ontario. Large plastic fragments were also collected, which included cigarette butts, films, bottle caps, and food wrappers. The trash team currently employs trash capture technology in removing plastic pollution from Toronto waterways. According to their report, about 140 million tons of plastic have built up in global water systems, and this number is expected to triple in the next 40 years if people do not change their plastic use and waste management habits. Chantal Santos, Toronto, Ontario, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Now, let's head over to Papua New Guinea. After a 3-year shutdown due to a benefit sharing terms dispute, the Porgera gold mine is reopening this year. Echo Hortaleza Canyola tells us more on Oceania at a Glance.
As the Porgera gold mine reopens this year, the Enga landowners, local people of Barrett, and the provincial government agreed to have equity shares for a better deal. The first gold pour signifies the first step in the government taking back more resource content in the extractive industry sector.
That's under SML1. At the moment, the goal is below 50%, the mine rather is below 50% productivity. We expect to ramp up to 100% productivity by July.
Prime Minister Marape stamps the first produced gold bar.
The pouring of gold for the first time. Today we witnessed 15 million kina worth of gold.
Marape urges Enga province residents to end the tribal wars and embrace the economic opportunities presented by the new Porgera gold mines.
From Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, Echo Hortaleza Canyola, Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
In Colombia, an 8-year-old rebellious bear is about to finally hug the freedom he is seeking. Elise Danielle reports.
Tama's caretakers know that they are not dealing with just any Andean bear. Black, with a white mask and weighing 174 kilos, the Tama is considered an escapist. He tried to free himself from a zoo outside Bogota in 2022. 8-year-old rebellious bear Tama was hurt. A team of biologists and veterinarians are preparing him for a long-awaited return to the forests of the Colombian Andes. Veterinarian Orlando Feliciano says with Tama's attempt to escape, he showed them many things, including the desire to be free. Feliciano says they are giving him that second chance. Feliciano received Tama when he was a 5-month-old orphan bear cub, anemic and with a flea infestation. Experts say there are only about 130 Andean bears living, a species in a vulnerable state of conservation. Feliciano named Tama after the natural park where the farmers found it abandoned. It was near the border with Venezuela. Years later, the Tama took advantage of damage to one of the fences of the zoo and escaped. That short-lived attempt unleashed a 2-week media chase up a hill on the outskirts of Bogota.
Elise Danielle, Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
Before we let you go, here's our photo of the week. This is a shot of paragliders in Interlaken, a traditional resort town located in the mountainous Bernese Oberland region of central Switzerland. Thank you, Marjorie Quintos, for this photograph. Thank you all for joining us again. If there are stories you want us to share with you, just comment below. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and X at Eagle News Live. I am EJayGonzales. We live in extraordinary times. Stay happy and healthy, everyone.